The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade, episode number 126 here this week. And I'm your host, Ray Russell, to bring you more of that 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation goodness. And this week, we continue on that path through April TV here in 1988 in the WWF. Last time out, we conquered 2 weeks of TV here in April, 5 weeks of TV, the way the dates fall here in the calendar month of April 88. And so we've still got yet another week of TV to cover after this. And then, of course, the next edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. But in order to get there, we've got to get through the rest of the month first. And we're going to continue on that trek this week. After a week off, me and the missus on vacation down in Orlando went to the lovely Glory Days GrappleCon event. Want to thank Barry Rose and the Captain Nick Massey once again for inviting us along. We had a great time down there. The wife got to see SeaWorld. We went to an awesome Seven Seas food festival. And of course, the GrappleCon event, smack dab in the middle of all the happenings while we were down there. Had the pleasure of meeting the likes of Larry Zbyszko, Stan Hansen, the One Man Gang, so many greats. And then, of course, got to hook up with a lot of good friends that I only knew through social media. Get to meet them in person, say hello to dozens of people, including some fans of the Grenade. So a big shout out to all of the followers of the Grenade, of the WrestleCopia brand out there. And a super shout out to one Matt Crowder, one of the most loyalist of supporters here for the Grenade. And as we get prepared to continue on here into the spring of 1988, just a quick reminder that you guys can listen to the Grenade Show, as well as sister shows like the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Georgia 81 with Jamie Ward, the UWF 86 with Roman Gomez, or Memphis 1985 with Gene Jackson. You can listen to all of those projects as part of the Regional Wrestling Podcast. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop, with the legend himself, Bob Roop, going to go back in time and talk about his entire career, everybody he ever encountered, whether it was in the ring or behind the scenes. Lots of great conversation. And coming up next there on the Wrestling Stoop, it's Bill Watts' Mid-South Wrestling circa 1981 and 1982. Bob's going to talk about his entire run there and his encounters with the likes of Ted DiBiase, the Junkyard Dog, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and so many more. You're going to want to listen to that. And you're also going to want to listen to the Pro Wrestling Academy podcast, featuring the professor of Pro Resu, talking about Dan Ginnity. We go back in time and we cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling. Right now, we're building the foundation, guys, before we really go exploring. You're going to want to check all of those podcasts out and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And be sure to follow us on social media for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. And you can follow me on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, be one of the 12,000 plus to follow and like us at Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade, and subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. Over 600 videos and counting up right now over there on YouTube. And last, but certainly not least, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron. And I'm talking about that $5 all access tier located over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where $5 will get you so much, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to many of the podcasts here on WrestleCopia, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. Then from there, it's remastered versions of the earliest episodes of The Grenade Show. Includes enhanced sound quality, plus new content and conversation you've never heard before. But that's still not all. You guys also get a guaranteed, at least, no less than, 12 digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series, covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that wasn't enough, we're just getting it off the ground. Video cast, guys. You can go right now. Check out me and Gene Jackson covering Grunt the Wrestling Movie. And I got great news for you. WrestleMania 4, Parts 1 and Part 2, right around the corner on Patreon. And you get all of that for the low, low price of just $5. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month. I think you'll like all of the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and all of the great shows here, and more to come very soon, all of them up and running for the months and the years to come. And all right, guys, we did take a week off, but we're back into the swing of things. Working these podcasts in this week around a little spring cleaning and some yard work. But we made it. We're here, and it's time to head back to April of 1988 one more time. This time, it's back to April 16th and the WWF's Superstars of Wrestling. All right, guys, and here we go. Superstars, April 16th, tape back March 19th in Cape Girardeau, Missouri at the Show Me Center. It's Vince McMahon and Jesse the Body Ventura on commentary as we head off to the ring to see Ravishing Rick Rude in action. Of course, accompanied to the ring by one Bobby the Brain Heenan. Rick Rude taking on this week Reno Riggins. Is Rick going to ask all the fat boys in the crowd to shut their mouths while he shows off his body to the ladies? Then from there, we get an insert promo from more of the ringside lady fans. Remember, we saw this last time out. If they were offered to kiss Ravishing Rick, would they do so? Well, we get a split decision here. Some would absolutely love to kiss Rick Rude. Others claim they wouldn't. As is back to the ring for action, Rick Rude with a snap power slam, but refusing to make the cover. And then from there, Ravishing Rick snaps suplex. And again, opts not to make the cover. Instead, it is the Rude Awakening neckbreaker. Going to put Riggins away 2 minutes and 3 seconds. And of course, post-match, the other Rude Awakening now, Rick Rude laying in a kiss on a lovely blonde lady from the crowd. And I don't know what it is, guys, but just watching Rick Rude here, circa the spring of '88, he just has that swag about him now. As we roll off now to Update, and Lord Alfred Hayes going to talk all about the recent altercation between the Outlaw Ron Bass and the Junkyard Dog.
From the pages of the World Wrestling Federation magazine, here's Update.
Hello, everyone. This is Lord Alfred Hayes with Update. If you have been watching Outlaw Ron Bass recently, you cannot help but notice the burly cowboy is at war with the world. The latest object of his fury is the charismatic Junkyard Dog. When Bass blocked the dog as he was headed back to the locker room after a recent match, the aisle suddenly became a battleground. Although the hot-tempered Texan seemed to give way for a moment, it was just a devious ploy to attack the dog from behind. Let us see exactly what took place. After this blatant and damaging attack on the Junkyard Dog, both protagonists had this to say.
JYD, I thought you'd learned your lesson, but apparently you didn't. You want to challenge the big old outlaw? Well, let me tell you something. You get that big old long chain of yours, I've got Miss Betsy, and we'll walk into that ring, they'll ring that bell, and they say, get it on, and let the best man walk out, and you're looking at him, JYD. Bass, don't nobody drags me around, Daddy. Don't nobody do the thing that you did to me on national television, and you think you're gonna get away with it? I'm looking for you.
This will be a vicious battle, as both men are bound and determined to clash again. Only this time, Betsy might fight the huge man who wields her. For Update, this is Lord Alfred Hayes.
All right, we touched on it last time here on the Grenade Show. Ron Bass finishing up his match, crossing paths with JYD in the aisleway, Bass didn't want to make a move. He didn't want to get out of the way of one dog, so JYD raising his fist with chain in hand, Bass says, okay, I'll let you pass. And then JYD heads to the ring, but Outlaw from behind with Miss Betsy choking JYD out, frothing at the mouth, dragging him to the backstage area, and the feud is on. As we just heard promos there from both the Outlaw and the JYD, apparently Dog, he didn't learn his lesson. He challenged the Outlaw, and for that, Ron Bass says, the Dog will pay. Meanwhile, on the other end, JYD says, don't nobody drag the Dog around and think they're going to get away with it. JYD looking for Outlaw Ron Bass, so that feud has begun here. And speaking of feuds, boy, we got a big one here. Hacksaw Jim Duggan marching his way out to the ring to take on Pete Sanchez. And during the matchup, we get the Old Glory knee drop, the wind-up power slam, and the three-point stance and clothesline. Duggan still leaping off his feet to deliver the big blow to score the win. 1 minute and 44 seconds. And did you guys ever notice that 50% of Hacksaw's offense is clotheslines? Yet his finisher is also a clothesline? Just wanted to put that out there. Anywho, I was talking about a feud, and a feud it is. Post-match, Duggan celebrating in the ring, but we see the eighth wonder of the world, Andre the Giant, making his way to ringside. Bobby Heenan right behind the eighth wonder. Remember, Bobby now back with Andre. We established that last week on TV. The Brain seemingly trying to talk the Giant out of heading to the ring, but Andre shoving Bobby back and continues to stomp his way down to ringside. And it looks like, oh shit, it's about to go down here. Could it be Andre and Duggan too? Andre looking for revenge after being knocked out by the 2x4 last time these two were in the ring together. And speaking of the board, Duggan readying himself in the ring, cocking back with that 2x4, daring Andre to climb inside while Hacksaw holds the 2x4 in hand. Now, the Giant looks a little hesitant for a moment, but then he climbs up the steps and onto the apron. Oh boy, here we go. It appears like the Giant is about to climb inside when Duggan rushing at Andre with the 2x4, taking a wild swing. Andre wisely dropping down to the apron and onto the floor just in the nick of time before getting clocked once again with the big board. Is Andre going to stumble, but Hacksaw standing there inviting him back inside? Well, that's not really fair, Duggan. You've got the 2x4 there. And it looks like, yeah, even Andre the Giant, Bobby Heenan, both thinking the wiser here. The Giant going to refrain from trying to enter the ring while Duggan standing his ground with his equalizer, the 2x4. If the Cowboy was here, he'd probably say Duggan was walking tall. But it looks like Andre going to have to pick his spot and live to fight another day. Tough guy. So great tease here this week, a little revenge. Andre's revenge. He's coming out aggressive. He has a purpose. He's kind of power walking to the ring. Bobby Heenan trying to talk Andre out of it, but he's so incensed that he wasn't just knocked out by Duggan, but it was done on TV. Humiliated in front of millions of fans around the world. Andre coming out here for revenge, but Duggan, he stands tall, holding that 2x4. He may be the babyface, but he's no fool. And to be honest with you, from what we've gotten thus far in this one, the feud, it's been fun. Unfortunately, eventually, the bell's going to have to ring. But I am thoroughly enjoying this one for now as we head off now to Mean Gene Okerlund, standing by in the event center. He's got interviews lined up with Ken Patera and the Canadian strongman, Dino Bravo.
All right, hi again, everybody. This is Mean Gene Okerlund, back in the World Wrestling Federation Event Center. And so many things happening right now in the World Wrestling Federation. I've got a comment. I really must say something about what is happening between Andre the Giant and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Of course, Duggan, a very aggressive, a very assertive individual. I think if we go back a couple of weeks, you recall vividly what happened when Andre the Giant and Hacksaw Jim Duggan met in that melee in the ring, and all of a sudden it was Andre that was choking Duggan down. Somehow, Duggan able to get back to the board, and did he lambast Andre the Giant? So there is a feud, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be hearing a great deal about in weeks and months to come. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Andre the Giant. Speaking of feuds, there is one that is boiling in the World Wrestling Federation between two strongmen, Canadian Dino Bravo and Ken Patera.
Dino Bravo, I'm proud of the fact that my name is in the record book for being the first man to ever military press 500 pounds over his head. When I look in the record book for your name, Dino Bravo, I don't see it. Where is it? You claim to bench press 712 pounds Well, let's put it this way. I feel that was a tag team combination between you and Jesse Ventura. You might think otherwise, but I don't believe so. I'm from the United States of America. You're from French Quebec, Canada. But when you come into my territory, Dino Bravo, get used to the chant, USA, USA, USA. Get used to it, baby. Because when I get in the ring, I'm going to feel like I'm pressing that 500 pounds over my head one more time in victory, Dino Bravo.
You know, Ken Patera, to worship Olympic medal is a big, big deal to you. But I'm going to tell you one thing. To fight against Dino Bravo is to like pain and humiliation, even if you have everybody in the USA chanting, USA, USA. Patera, this is the man here that can do it.
You know, Patera, you said you were the first man to press 500 pounds. It's true, but that's in the past. I do repetition with 500 pounds. Come and get me, Patera!
All right, Dino Bravo contends that he set the unofficial world bench press mark of 712 pounds. I was there when it happened. Believe me, it's suspect. Anything Jesse Ventura gets involved in is suspect. Stay tuned. We're going to be back with more after this.
So Ken Patera basically selling himself on a record that he set many years back. And it was impressive indeed. 500 pounds over his head, the first man to ever do such a thing back when he did so. But a babyface going into a feud strictly because his ego believes he should be named the strongest man? And of course, Dino Bravo comes from the evil country of Canada, after all, so Ken Patera pushing the USA chants on top of it all. Meanwhile, on the other side, Dino Bravo admits that, hey, Patera was the first man to press those 500 pounds over his head, but that's old news. Dino Bravo is today. Dino Bravo did the bench press at the Royal Rumble. How can we forget? They won't let us. Bravo stating that he is the world's strongest man, and, I was already dreading the matches between these two, but this feud, it doesn't have much substance either. Patera, he's been broken down since his return, getting out of prison and returning last year, and now he's doing the strongman gimmick again, and he comes off sort of heelish here, if you ask me anyway. As we head back to the ring now, going to see the Intercontinental Champion Honky Tonk Man with Jimmy Hart and Greg Valentine in his corner. Okay, Honky Tonk taking on Omar Atlas here this week, as the Hammer apparently factored in at ringside to aid in backup, for fear that Brutus Beefcake could be lurking around. And Jimmy Hart, now wearing that infamous beret to hide his hideous haircut given to him at WrestleMania 4, that actually hasn't happened yet because this was taped prior to WrestleMania, but tomato, tomato. Hart now a nervous wreck is the storyline since receiving said haircut, and thus Greg Valentine kind of out there acting as bodyguard to both the champion and the manager for this matchup. We do get an insert promo from Honky Tonk as well, promising that Brudai will never put the Intercontinental Champion to sleep again. And then back to the action. Omar Atlas gets in some nice fun shots early on here, but it is the shake, rattle, and roll neckbreaker going to give the Honky Tonk Man the win in just 1 minute and 48 seconds. And then we're straight away back to the event center once more. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by this time, hyping some upcoming matches at Madison Square Garden, promoting some of the feuds, including Strikeforce. They're going to talk about their rematch with the new tag team champions Demolition. And then we're going to hear from one of the last, if not the last promo from one Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Of course, New York, you know about the tremendous tradition of Madison Square Garden. That continues a week from this Monday night on the 25th when the World Wrestling Federation returns. New tag team champions Demolition to meet the Strikeforce.
Demolition and Mr. Fuji, we knew going into the match in WrestleMania 4 that it was going to be a brutal match. What we didn't know was when you, Fuji, was going to stick your nose in our match. You gave us everything you had, and it wasn't good enough, was it, Mr. Fuji? You had to stick your nose with that no-good cane. I promise you one thing, what Strikeforce has will be good enough, and the wealth will be around our waist, baby.
Yes, we sacrificed too much. We've worked too hard to win those belts, to let you, Demolition, and Fuji take them away from us. That way, I guarantee you, you're going to pay for it. We're coming back after you, and you're not going to like it. I guarantee you, we're going to take those belts back where they belong.
You're going to be eating some cane, Fuji.
All right, Strikeforce not happy with the decision at all in WrestleMania 4. They've got an opportunity to regain the tag team titles. Greg the Hammer Valentine is going to be meeting Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
You know something, Greg Valentine? Your manager, Hart, didn't seem to fare very well. Got himself a new hairdo, a new style. Everybody saw it. Millions saw it. But you know what fans have been telling me lately? That it's your turn. That your hair is starting to stick up all over the place, looking kind of scraggly looking. It needs a little trim. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to be like Barber Beefcake and bring in a pair of scissors, but I can do some chopping of my own with these pair of hands that I've got. Valentine, you're in store for a rude awakening. Be there.
Lots of talent there. They're going to be meeting in the Garden, two former Intercontinental champions in Greg the Hammer Valentine and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. A lot happening a week from this Monday night in MSG. We've got a 7:30 p.m. start. Let me explain some of the happenings to you. Yeah, the new undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion, Macho Man Randy Savage, to defend against the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. We know about the Demolition Tag Team Champions Strike Force. Bam Bam Bigelow to meet the one-man gang. The Ultimate Warrior squares off against Hercules. Bad News Brown to meet Bret the Hitman Hart. Patera, Bravo, Steamboat, and Valentine. It reads like the who's who in Madison Square Garden a week from this Monday night.
So Strike Force chasing Demolition, trying to regain the gold that they feel they were robbed of at WrestleMania. Meanwhile, Ricky Steamboat pegged for a house show feud with Greg Valentine coming out of WrestleMania. Of course, the Hammer defeated the Dragon in the first round. Steamboat coming back for revenge? Not so much. Remember, the Dragon already gone, finished up at WrestleMania. So this match, never going to happen. What match will happen, though, is the British Bulldogs standing in the ring, ready to take on Dusty Wolf and Barry Horowitz. And there she is, Matilda, back on TV as commentary continues to sell the Bulldogs and Bobby Heenan feud post-pay-per-view. We will see more six-man tags on the house shows. Nice snap suplex and back suplex here by Dynamite Kid onto Dusty Wolf. And then it's Davey Boy Smith in with the running power slam as well on Dusty. And then Davey Boy going to launch Dynamite high in the air with a gorilla press, throwing his own partner Dynamite down with a diving headbutt onto Wolf. Going to give the Bulldogs the win. 2 minutes and 12 seconds. As the program just keeps rolling, we're off to a special interview up on the platform. Craig DeGeorge still here, standing by with Dino Bravo and manager Frenchie Martin, which makes this the perfect time, once again, for Vince McMahon to argue with Jesse Ventura about aiding Bravo in that world bench press record attempt back at Royal Rumble. They just got to keep reminding us, guys. Frenchie with the usual anti-USA shtick here, while Dino Bravo bearing America and Ken Patera in the process, who said his strongman gimmick long ago, says Dino Bravo. Ken Patera, no match for Dino Bravo here in 1988. As the crowd, well, they make a little noise, but nothing crazy. Brace yourself, guys. This is really happening. Dino Bravo and Ken Patera, 1988. As we roll on back to the ring for the Rock Don Morocco with manager superstar Billy Graham. Morocco taking on Jerry Hall. As the match gets going, Morocco straight away, gut wrench suplex, kicks it right off, and then right into a clothesline, nasty clothesline in the corner, followed by a quick running power slam. I wrote, wow, not getting paid by the hour here. Morocco straight into the tombstone pile driver, going to get the win in just a mere 45 seconds. It was boom, 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 literally 4 moves, and Morocco going to score the quick win. As the action just going to keep rolling on here, we're going to see Bad News Brown in the ring. He's taking on Jim Evans as Brown makes a beeline straight up the aisle into the ring, attacking poor Jim Evans here. Quick beatdown, big clothesline, setting him up for the Ghetto Blaster, giving Bad News Brown the quick win, 1 minute and 12 seconds. And if you listen to commentary during this matchup, they push Brown's Battle Royal win pretty big here. They push his character, or lack thereof, turning on the Hitman, becoming a double cross at WrestleMania, which is yet another feud that we're going to see over the next few months here around the horn. Bret Hart versus Bad News Brown. Looking forward to watching a couple of those matches. As Superstars rolls on, we now go to a replay of the WrestleMania 4 report of the Battle Royal, including the promos from Bret Hart and Bad News Brown. We heard them last week, so we're going to continue on. We got more from them later on. Don't worry, guys. Right now, it's to the ring. Oh, we got a soundbite here for you in just a moment. It's going to be the Birdman, Koko Ware, taking on Tom Stone. As we get an insert promo here from Koko, who is going weasel hunting after WrestleMania. Koko Ware, more like Bobby Heenan. Beware, sounds like to me. Revenge is on Koko's mind. And then Jesse Ventura, really on a roll this week.
cares about the wrestlers. I found out how Koko got to be such a good wrestler. His Aunt Jemima used to chase him around with a rolling pin and make him tough. You ever see her?
No, Jesse, I don't.
She's a 300-pound behemoth.
Oh, really? What a competitor. Especially considering this man's size. He's no behemoth in there. What do you have inside that he makes up in tenacity and speed and all-around agility?
Oh, yeah, he does all that. You know, the best thing is I got a job for him when he decides to retire.
I beg your pardon, you're going to go into managing?
Nah, I'm going to make Koko a yard jockey in my front lawn.
Oh, wise guy, huh?
So as the match getting ready to go, Jesse Ventura right away busting out his first line of the matchup. It won't be his last. We heard it here. Says Koko's so quick because Aunt Jemima used to chase him around with a rolling pin. Then the conversation continues on, and we heard it there. Vince McMahon, what Koko lacks in size, he makes up for in his tenacity and speed. To which Jesse replies,
Oh, yeah, he does all that. But the best thing is that I got a job for him when he decides to retire.
Vince replies, I beg your pardon? You're going to go into managing?
Nah, I'm going to make Koko a yard jockey in my front lawn.
Unbelievable, Jesse Ventura. Oh, a wise guy, huh? Says McMahon, but unbelievable. The banter going on back in 1988, usually from one Jesse Ventura, especially in the Koko Beware matches. And speaking of the Birdman, he is in action right now. We get a nice drop kick from Ware, who dominates for the most part throughout this one. Tom Stone does briefly take over, and he goes up top, but he comes off and lands right into an inverted atomic drop from the Birdman, and then Ware quickly with a power slam and a nasty-looking Ghostbuster, or maybe now the Weasel Buster, if you will. Call it what you want. Koko Beware scoring the win, 3 minutes and 10 seconds. As we continue on to the Event Center with Mean Gene Okerlund, this time promos from Bobby the Brain Heenan and Dangerous Danny Davis.
You know, I've had an opportunity to touch on some of the tremendous feuds that I see developing. They're smoldering, if you will, right now, the World Wrestling Federation, but they are about to explode into a huge flame. Ken Patera and Dino Bravo. These two men with their backgrounds just about identical. Bravo from Canada, Patera from the United States. They have got a thing going. Also, Outlaw Ron Bass should never have tried to do to the Junkyard Dog what he did in front of a national television audience. Mr. Bass, ultimately, in my opinion, you will pay for that. Also, there's something happening between Koko Beware and a man who considers himself just an outright genius. Some call him the Weasel. He calls himself the Brain, Bobby Heenan.
What are you going to do, Koko? You're mad because I wiped the mat with you at WrestleMania. You're upset because I embarrassed you in front of millions of people. Now you want to take me apart? You're going to pick me up in that Ghostbuster, the Weasel Buster, and break my neck? I have a history of neck injuries. Everybody knows that. You think I'm going to be dumb enough to let you get your hands on me and hoist me in the air and crack my neck? No, I'm not. I'm not dumb and I'm not stupid. I'm Bobby the Brain. I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like some punk telling me what he's going to do to me. Your best bet, son, is to go home to your mother and father and take your bird home. It's all over for you.
Bobby the Brain Heenan has a propensity to underestimate some, like Koko Beware, and overestimate others, like Andre the Giant, the Islanders, and the Mighty Hercules. Dangerous Danny Davis has got a big one coming up against young Sam Houston.
Sam Houston. Even the name stinks. Well, Sam Houston, when I'm through with you, you're going to have to go back to Texas and wallow through the meadows and the cow dung just like you did before you got here. Sam Houston, let me tell you something. You may rustle cattle, or whatever you do down there, but as far as I'm concerned, you're a drugstore cowboy. You mean nothing to me, but you're going to face Dangerous Danny Davis, and that's going to be the ultimate test.
All right, there's another one we got to talk about here in the World Wrestling Federation. The feud that exists between Dangerous Danny Davis and Texan young Sam Houston. They're great ones right here in the World Wrestling Federation.
So that feud just keeps going on. Bobby Heenan mocking Koko Beware, losing to the manager, albeit with help from the Islanders at WrestleMania. And now Koko looking for revenge with the Weasel Buster, which we just saw in the previous matchup. So Bobby Heenan better be on his guard. Also, we get a promo from Danny Davis this late in his career. Good to see Danny still getting some promo time here, but sans Jimmy Hart for this one. as somehow Dangerous Danny versus Sam Houston, still a thing. Nearly 6 months later. Unbelievable. As we conclude this edition of Superstars, we get a major news alert. At the end of the program, it appears that Hulk Hogan has been nominated for a Nickelodeon's Kid Choice Award here for 1988 Athlete of the Year, alongside the likes of, wow, Walter Payton and Michael Jordan. Talk about being in good company. And spoiler alert, guys, this aired 2 days later on Nickelodeon, April the 18th. Hulk Hogan beating out both Payton and Jordan as the 1988 Athlete of the Year. Take that, dude. Unbelievable. As we roll on to the following day, in April the 17th, WWF Wrestling Challenge. All right, here we are, Wrestling Challenge, April 17th, tape back March 20th, Springfield, Illinois, at the Prairie Capital Convention Center. Has Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon on commentary as we head off to the ring to see the former tag team champion Strikeforce. It's Rick Martel and Tito Santana taking on the duo of Dusty Wolf and Chris Curtis, as this match also taped before WrestleMania. So if you're wondering why Strikeforce is running down to ringside without the belts, you'll also note no jackets or headbands or any of their cutesy ordeal. And that's because, to explain the no belt entrance here on TV, Strikeforce actually already came out with the belts prior to this, and then they chased one of the managers backstage and then returned again without the gear, without the belts, which explains why they run to ringside here in just their trunks. They had to do a lot of funky things back then to cover up what was going to happen at future pay-per-views and things of that nature, but 'twas the times. As we get an insert promo here from the brand new tag team champions, Demolition, and manager Mr. Fuji, warning Strikeforce to be careful what you wish for. Tito and Martel, they want a rematch for the tag team titles, but the next time very well could be their last time. Axe says that Strikeforce, they fight well, but not good enough. Demolition accepting that challenge, telling Strikeforce to bring it on. What a badass tag team, Axe and Smash Demolition, but it's back to the ring now to see Strikeforce in action. Tito Santana looking great in there. Really nice drop kick right out of the start. Fast action from both men. Martel all over the ring as usual. Quick tags back and forth. Santana winding up in the heel corner finally. And Tito in trouble momentarily, but he's going to fire back on Dusty Wolf and tagging back to partner Rick Martel, who hits the rings with drop kicks for both of his opponents. Martel then with a backdrop on Dusty Wolf, and a Santana flying forearm on Dusty, going to give Strikeforce the win. Match goes 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Lots of fire from the former champions here, looking to regain their gold. Not a whole lot to the Strikeforce Demolition feud other than, hey, you robbed us of the tag belts and we want them back. But you got to figure with the Hart Foundation currently in limbo, the British Bulldogs currently being used to push a mascot, Matilda, and the Islanders really almost done with the company. There are really only 2 teams worthy of title matches, which honestly is scary. But as we know, that won't last long. Plenty of tag teams around the corner, guys. Can't wait for that. As we go off now to Special Report and Lord Alfred Hayes talking all about Rick Rude's brand new Rude Awakening Kiss. At the end of his matches, we get highlights from many of the early Rude Awakening kisses here in this segment. We also hear from many ladies. Once again, a lot of lady fans responding. Would they or wouldn't they? Some say yes, some say no. What a gimmick. Rick Rude, ladies and gentlemen. As we head back to the ring, well, talking about gimmicks, here he is, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase with bodyguard Virgil. DiBiase taking on Reno Riggins here this week. It's good to see old Verge right back in there after that suplex on the floor from Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania, brother. We get an insert promo here from a laughing Ted DiBiase after losing the finals at WrestleMania? No, instead of being upset, we see a very confident $1 Million Man in this promo who insists that the WWF title will still soon be around his waist. He says, you can take that to the bank. So Dibiase still talking about some sort of a master plan. We'll have to wait and see if he ever pulls off that coup. As the action gets going here, Teddy having issues early on with Riggins, finding himself on the mat, and he doesn't look too happy about it. Dibiase back to his feet, and he takes over with authority here as we get an extra aggressive $1 Million Man. Post-WrestleMania, nice vertical suplex, and a pair of falling fist drops, awesome as always, followed by the Dibiase Power Slam and the $1 Million Dream. As referee Jack Kruger going to make the call, Dibiase scoring the win, 2 minutes and 13 seconds. And then post-match, Dibiase going to stuff a Benjamin, a $100 bill, straight down the mouth of Mr. Riggins. And then sits him up to slap him on the back. So a very kind Dibiase here, actually waking his opponent up, old school style. And then Virgil going to retrieve the money after Riggins coughs it up. As now it's time once again to head back to the event center and Mean Gene Okerlund. He's going to be talking to the $1 Million Man. We're also going to hear from the brand new WWF Undisputed Champion, the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
All right, back here with more, of course, information on Wrestling Challenge regarding what's happening in the World Wrestling Federation. I talked earlier on about the new and undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion, Macho Man Randy Savage from Sarasota, Florida. When you take a look at what he did in WrestleMania 4, initially beating the natural Butch Reed, going on to meet Greg the Hammer Valentine, then the one-man gang, and finally in the finals meeting the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. And I've got to say this, Dibiase, a disruptive force, very controversial individual throughout the championship elimination tournament. But there's no question that Mr. Dibiase right now has got to be considered the #1 contender.
All of the politicians of the World Wrestling Federation have to be asking themselves right now, when will we be rid of the $1 Million Man? Well, I'll answer it very simply, never! Because I still have the master plan. I still have all the money. And I will have the World Wrestling Federation heavyweight title. Randy Savage, you've been saved. That's right, you had a savior in your corner, along with the sweet Elizabeth. That's the only reason you're standing where I should be today. But there'll be no savior this time, Randy Savage. There'll be nobody there to pull you out. And Elizabeth surely can't do it. And I will have that belt around my waist like I always said I would have. Like I have said time and time again. I always get what I want.
Yeah, the top prize in the world today, yeah. The undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion. I hold it proud, yeah. Ted Dibiase, what do you think, huh? Looks good on me, doesn't it? Yeah, You didn't pay your dues. Live by the buck and die by the buck. Your inspiration is money, and my inspiration is the bravest little manager in the world today. Inspiration, Ted Dibiase. You don't know anything about that, do you? And when you come after me, you're coming after an inspired athlete. Yeah. The undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion. Come get me, man. Yeah.
All right, I can guarantee you this, ladies and gentlemen, folks, they will meet World Wrestling Federation champion Macho Man Randy Savage, and the $1 Million Man Ted Dibiase will be a challenger for the world title. Don't miss it.
So there you hear it. Not the happiest of human beings, but still a very confident Ted Dibiase, who still has a master plan in place to become the next WWF champion. We'll just have to wait and see. Meanwhile, Macho Man, along with his inspiration, the lovely Miss Elizabeth, riding high now, as we have a brand new WWF champion in Randy Savage. And then back to the ring for singles action. Going to see Brutus the Barber Beefcake take on Gene Watson, as we get an insert promo here from Jimmy Hart, rocking that beret. He's warning the Barber in this promo, looking for revenge for his WrestleMania haircut. Jimmy Hart looking now to cut the hair of the Barber next time around. So Jimmy Hart, none too happy about the haircut he received at the pay-per-view. As for this matchup, pretty basic stuff here from the Barber, pounding away on Gene Watson. On commentary, Bobby Heenan ponders if Gene Watson is related to the legendary Whipper Watson. Fun shout out there by the Brain. Gorilla Monsoon says absolutely not. And it is the Barber's sleeper going to give Brute Eye the win in just 2 minutes time. And you know what comes next? Yes, it's night-night time for Watson, and that's going to lead to some strutting and most definitely some cutting. Brutus the Barber Beefcake snipping the hair of Mr. Watson here as the action continues on. Up next, it's Outlaw Ron Bass taking on Frankie DeFalco. As DeFalco, no small man himself, but it's Outlaw Ron Bass scooping Frankie up in a power slam position, driving him into the corner, tying Frankie upside down in the Tree of Woe, and then stomping him down to the mat. Just mean, nasty, and aggressive here is Outlaw Ron Bass as he finishes this match off with the Texas Gourd Buster, the old pedigree, version 1. Gets the win for the Outlaw, 1 minute and 39 seconds. And then post-match, Miss Betsy comes out to play once more. Outlaw choking Frankie DeFalco out with Miss Betsy dragging him around the ring to end this segment. As it is now time once again to go back to the event center, Mean Gene Okerlund going to talk to a pair of 6-man tag teams. First, we're going to hear from the British Bulldogs and Koko Ware, and then it's Bobby Heenan and his Islanders.
Hey, by the way, gang, the brand new edition, the May 1988 edition of the World Wrestling Federation magazine is out. It's on newsstands right now. And look who is on the cover. It is my favorite, the First Lady of the World Wrestling Federation. She is the lovely Elizabeth, and she is the manager for the new and undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion, Macho Man Randy Savage. Lovely pair. I mean, Elizabeth and myself, well, certainly the Macho Man and the lovely Elizabeth are a great pair. Some things are happening in the World Wrestling Federation. You saw the 6-man tag in WrestleMania 4. The British Bulldogs and Koko Ware and Matilda got to the Islanders and Bobby the Brain Heenan. I don't think we've heard the end of this story.
Yeah, I just figured out. You know why I don't like bulldogs? And you know why I don't like the owners of bulldogs? Or people that have birds? Or Koko Wares? Because I don't like the way you look and I don't like the way you talk. I don't like anything about you guys.
They all look like Matilda.
Let me tell you something, Koko. You're looking at one of the best teams in the WWF. Now it's a 6-man tag. I want to let you know that you guys are going to go down. We're ready. We're fired up. Bring the army, because we are the army. You know, I'll tell you, this time I'm just not going to beat Koko. I'm going to take one on Dynamite, one on Davy Boy, and then I'm going to pull all the teeth on that mutt.
The Islanders is right back of you, Brain.
You know, Islanders, you know, Weasel, you've heard of hound dogs, you've heard of rabbit dogs, but now you're seeing the world's first weasel dog. That's right, Bobby Heenan. But next time we step in the ring with you, there's going to be no sooner hammer to protect you. Because when she sinks them teeth into you, look at them teeth, Heenan. Those teeth are going to go so far down, even the Bulldogs not be able to pull you off.
That's right, Weasel. Matilda's been doing a little bit more training, and she's out on your trail. When she sinks these teeth into your leg, even the Bulldogs won't be able to take her off.
And I want to tell you one thing, Bobby Heenan. We all got the Weasel fever, brother, because we want a piece of you any way we can.
All right, getting point, counterpoint from the Islanders, Bobby Heenan, and the British Bulldogs and Koko Ware. By the way, any matches further to be booked by the World Wrestling Federation does not allow Bobby Heenan to wear protective clothing.
Oh, pervy Gene Okerlund there shilling the new WWF magazine with the lovely Miss Elizabeth on the cover. He says, boy, they make a great pair, don't they? I mean, me and Elizabeth. I mean, Elizabeth and Randy. We know what you meant, Gene. And clearly those 6-man tag team matches will continue, which is fun for the house shows. And the mandate has come down from President Jack Tunney himself. Bobby Heenan no longer allowed to wear protective gear in those 6-man tags. So no more protective gear for the Brain. As we go back to ringside now, it's Jake the Snake Roberts taking on Terry Gibbs. And the Snake Man rocking that brand new theme music that he technically debuted at WrestleMania, although this was taped prior. Still cool, Jake has his theme now. As the Snake Man, going to surprise everyone, bust out a couple of arm drags to get things going here. Terry Gibbs bumping over right into the corner, which just happens to feature Damien hanging out underneath the turnbuckles there. And then Jake from there going to work over the arm of Terry Gibbs. Great stuff there. Great arm work here from Jake the Snake Roberts. Credit to Terry Gibbs, who tries to punch his way free, but to no avail, as Roberts going to wind up, nail the knee lift, followed by the short arm clothesline, and then the DDT. Going to get the win here for Jake the Snake. Match goes 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Super over is Jake the Snake, and Damien coming out of the bag post-match for a little fun with Terry Gibbs. As we continue on with the program, special interview. Craig DeGeorge up on the platform, going to talk to manager Bobby the Brain Heenan, as Heenan makes last week's announcement public here in front of the fans, as he confirms that he is indeed, once again, the manager of the 8th wonder of the world, Andre the Giant, And I'm still not 100% on how Ted DiBiase purchases Andre and then Heenan just gets him back. They don't really explain that. But they're heels, so they don't have to. Bobby then going to address the recent situation where Hacksaw Jim Duggan used that 2x4 to KO Andre. But the comments from the brain only irk Mr. Hacksaw as Duggan going to make his way out to the staging area. Jim Duggan going to climb up the steps and onto the platform as Bobby backing off, losing his balance and falling off the stage to the crowd's delight. Boy, Bobby was just so good at making everything better than it really had any right being. He doesn't just bail, he doesn't just jump off the stage, but he quote-unquote falls to pop the crowd even bigger. Great stuff here from Bobby Heenan. But anywho, Duggan proclaiming here on the microphone that he is now on a weasel watch, guys, with his trusty 2x4 in hand, and he's looking for Andre the Giant as well. As Bobby Heenan then going to walk back over, try to rejoin Gorilla Monsoon on commentary, but Duggan rushing over to the commentary stage and chasing the brain away from there as well. So Duggan standing guard with his 2x4, running the brain off, and it looks like Hacksaw Duggan going to take over color commentary alongside Gorilla Monsoon for the duration of this episode of Wrestling Challenge. Could be interesting. We'll have to wait and see. As we continue on back to the ring, the one-man gang with manager Slick, gang taking on this week, Leaping Lanny Poffo. And it is indeed Hacksaw Duggan now on commentary with the Gorilla. As we get our first poem from Lanny Poffo in quite a while, Lanny questioning how can the gang be called a one-man gang if he takes his orders from the Doctor of Style? And that question, it doesn't make the big man happy. And the gang going to attack Leaping Lanny, and I started to wonder, how awesome would it have been if one time Poffo just whipped a frisbee right into someone's face, boom, right off the bridge of their nose. Maybe a schoolboy sneako win. But that doesn't happen here. The gang attacking Poffo, complete one-sided beatdown follows. And man, you'd think with your brother being the new world champion, you'd at least get some offense in, but nope. As the gang going to deliver the Gourd Buster here, the Master Blaster, if you will, and one-man gang scoring the win over Leaping Lanny in just 1 minute and 25 seconds. Now, near the end of that matchup, we did cut to Gorilla and Hacksaw. Gorilla showing off the new magazine, and inside, he was putting over Bam Bam Bigelow. And remember, we've had some recent issues between the gang and Bigelow, even having that match at WrestleMania. And the fallout, these guys will continue to wrestle off and on the house shows for the next couple months as well. But it's kind of funny, though, even though we're not acknowledging it here on TV, the one-man gang fighting Lanny Poffo after fighting his brother Randy Savage at WrestleMania, and then going into the rematch at Saturday night's main event. So it's like an ICW brotherhood of sorts. We got Leaping Lanny, Randy Savage, and of course, the one-man gang who once upon a time was known as Crusher Broomfield. But that was then, and this is now, as we head off to the WrestleMania 4 report. Geez, we're still doing these 3 weeks removed from the pay-per-view. Mean Gene Okerlund going to send us to some post-WrestleMania press conference highlights of the brand new WWF Champion Randy Savage and his inspiration, the lovely Elizabeth. At this press conference, we also hear from the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, who gets to speak. Go figure. Though to his credit, he does use the time to loosely put over the Macho Man, as he states that we all know that Hulkamania is going to live forever, but he does believe that Macho Madness will live forever too. Dude. And then it's back to the ring. More action here. Going to see Greg the Hammer Valentine with manager Jimmy Hart. The Hammer taking on this week Mark Young. As we get some fun storytelling here from the adopted son of one Chief J. Strongbow, Mark Young, the breakdancing Mark Young. We haven't got to that stage in his career yet, but it's a-coming. As Young holding his own against Valentine early on, good back and forth until eventually the Hammer going to dominate. But Mark Young showing just enough offense in between to show that he has some capability out there. In fact, Mark Young with some nice-looking arm drags early on, then busting out a cartwheel and a nice little shoulder gyration dance. But Valentine right back on top with some nasty chops in the corner, and Hammer pitching Mark Young out to the floor, but the youngster back up on the apron and slingshots his way back over the top rope, planting Greg Valentine with a drop kick, and a good bump there by the Hammer as Mark Young only going to get himself a 1 count. Welcome to the WWF, Mark Young, as Valentine taking back over control, working Mark over in the corner, whipping him across the ring into the opposite buckles, but Young leaping up to the top rope with a reverse sunset flip from the top rope onto Greg Valentine. Gonna get 1, 2, but Valentine kicking out just in the nick of time. Wow, didn't see that coming. What a surprise. Caught the Hammer off guard, and he is flustered. But Mark Young, he doesn't know how to follow up. He can't capitalize. He's kind of just standing there. And now it's manager Jimmy Hart up on the apron to try to calm the Hammer down, get him back into the game. And it's Valentine taking back over with a nice back suplex, followed by the patented Hammer elbow drop, leading to the figure 4 leg lock to score the submission win. Match goes 3 minutes and 58 seconds. And of course, I said Mark Young, the son of Chief Jay Strongbow, and thus getting some time to shine, even as a rookie. Nepotism pays, pal. As post-match, we see Bobby Heenan briefly return to the commentary area, attempting to get back up on the stage, but Hacksaw Jim Duggan going to have none of it, as Hacksaw once again chasing Heenan off from the commentary area. And boy, did they give a whole lot of time really quickly here on TV, both Superstars and Wrestling Challenge, to this Hacksaw Duggan Andre the Giant feud. It's very clear that they obviously wanted to get as much as they could out of these two guys, and it's honestly made for some really fun TV thus far. As we continue on right now, Mean Gene Okerlund sitting by in the event center one more time. This time we're going to hear from a pair of tag teams. It's Slickster and his Bolsheviks, followed by the Young Stallions.
You know, as I have traveled around the country over the past couple of weeks, people are still buzzing about WrestleMania 4, that once-a-year wrestling spectacular that took place on March the 27th at Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. Of course, record crowds watched this one across the country and around the world. A couple of changes. I do want to make mention of them once again in case for some reason you have been living in a closet. There is a new and undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion. He is the Macho Man, Randy Savage, and of course he is managed by the First Lady of professional wrestling, the lovely Elizabeth. Also, brand new tag team champions in WrestleMania 4. They are Axe and Smash, the Demolition. They are very rough men. They're managed by Mr. Fuji, and of course they upended Strikeforce, who are going to be hot on their tails to regain the World Tag Team titles. Speaking of tag teams, let's hear from the Young Stallions and these two men, the Russian Bolsheviks and manager Slick.
You know what we're dealing with here is a road. That's right, the road that leads to the very top. You know, somebody's going to be champion, somebody is champion, and somebody wants to be champion. Young Stallion, these men stand in your way, and you stand in their way of reaching that goal. Remember, they're the greatest. You're nothing.
Я te zabiję, sam czarny ty Amery, Hanska Swinia.
Das bedeutet, comrade.
The Bolsheviks, Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov, you're a tough Russian tag team, and you're the best that the Russians have to offer. Well, you're looking at a good American tag team right here, the Young Stallions, and when we get in the ring with you, we're going to give you 110%. Is that right, Paul?
That's right. I'll tell you what, if that's the best that Russia has to offer, you better go back home. Don't even show up, because we're going to be ready for you, and we're going out there to represent us, the United States. That's right, baby. USA. And we're ready for you.
All right, that could be a very good matchup. The Young Stallions, Jimmy Powers, and of course his partner Paul Roma. They are on their way up. And of course a couple of men who are there right now are veterans, the Bolsheviks. Nikolai Volkov, a former World Tag Team Champion. His partner, also his comrade Boris Zukov. They are one of the great ones in the World Wrestling Federation. Sooner or later, they're going to meet, and when it happens, watch out.
Well, those promos certainly happened. And these matches also going to happen between the Young Stallions and the Bolsheviks. Jimmy Powers promising 110%, about as generic of a babyface promo as you're going to get. But kudos to the WWF for keeping Slick with the Bolsheviks for now, still trying to squeeze whatever they can out of Nikolai and Boris here in 1988. And Wrestling Challenge going to go off the air with Jim Duggan still refusing to allow the Weasel up on commentary, marching back and forth with his 2x4 as Wrestling Challenge concludes. Tough guy. But we're not quite done yet this week, guys. We've got one more piece of business. The following night, April 18th, USA Network, another edition of Primetime Wrestling with Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Monsoon.
I'm your host, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Primetime Wrestling. This should be a real treat. We've got a blockbuster lined up for you here this week with all the stars of the World Wrestling Federation and that same jacket again.
Yes, this is Vanna White said she likes me in black
sequins. You're going to start again with the
so
Vanna
I
White.
made this
please.
my traditional primetime.
I suppose you're going to wear that as well next week for your anniversary show?
Well, my new set, which I had designed myself.
You designed?
Yes, I did. I'm going to have my new phone, all kind of festivities. May have a few surprise guests. And I'm not eating any cake. I'm not wearing any cake.
Do you have a clue what the feature is this week?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
Hercules.
Yes.
And Fred Sanford.
Junkyard Dog, not
Same
Fred
thing.
Sanford.
Same thing.
Oh, you're something else, Brain. You're a piece of work. We got a whole host of stars with us here this week. Going to be taking a look at Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the guy with a 2x4.
You better take a good look at him, because when Andre gets
friend
his hands
of yours,
on him, he won't
right?
be around. Oh, a good friend of mine.
Also outstanding tag team matches, Bam Bam Bigelow joining forces with The Rock, taking on The Natural, Butch Reed, and the one-man gang. The Slickster looking to, I don't know, pave the way for a chance, perhaps, at Demolition.
Well, there's going to be a lot of beef in that ring. If she's looking to find where the beef is, it's right there.
In fact, that particular tag team matchup is our opening event this week here on Primetime Wrestling, so let's go to ringside.
Well, for those who missed it on the last episode of The Grenade, it's obvious. Primetime Wrestling, brand new intro. Always loved this theme, always loved this intro. As Bobby Heenan continues to wear the same jacket week after week, Gorilla Monsoon calling him out. You have to wonder how many of these were recorded in a day's time. But they do announce that next week will mark the 2-year anniversary. Yes, an anniversary show of Bobby Heenan's time here on Primetime Wrestling. Heenan promising a new set next week. Well, we'll have to wait and see about that. And the featured match this week, Bobby Heenan's family member, Hercules, taking on Fred Sanford. No, wait, that's the Junkyard Dog, Bobby. We're also going to get a good look at Hacksaw Jim Duggan here this week on the show, says the Gorilla. Bobby responds, you better take a good look at Jim Duggan. I don't think the Brain nor Andre looking to keep Hacksaw around the company very much longer. As we continue on here this week on Primetime, we go off to the Event Center in Mean Gene Okerlund. He's standing by with promos from Bad News Brown and the Hitman, Bret Hart.
All right, hi again, everybody. Gene Okerlund back in the World Wrestling Federation Event Center. And I've got to talk about some things that are happening right now, this week, in the World Wrestling Federation. If I can just digress to WrestleMania 4 on the 27th of March this year. In Atlantic City at Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino. There was the big 20-man invitational battle royal, and I mean it read like the who's who in the World Wrestling Federation. When it got down to the nitty-gritty, 3 men were left. The Junkyard Dog, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Bad News Brown. Now, apparently, Bret Hart and Bad News had made a pact. They wanted to get rid of the Junkyard Dog. They did so, but then the big double cross. We got words from both men.
Let me tell you something, Bret Hart. Do you know how I got the name Bad News? Everybody in the neighborhood gave it to me because they knew when I came out on the streets, when I hit the pavements that day, they knew it was going to be bad news for somebody, and it's going to be bad news for you. That's right, because you got to pay the price. I intend to take you and teach you the lesson of your life, but I'm a kind guy. I have a good heart. I intend to leave just enough for you, so when I'm through with you, they can take and make fertilizer out of you. That's right, fertilizer, because that's all you'll be worth. It's garbage. Fertilizer, garbage, nothing else, because you won't be worth anything else when I slam this upside your head.
Listen here, Bad News Brown. The whole world in WrestleMania 4 got to see just how bad you really are. And they got to see exactly what you are. You're nothing but a double cross. And are you supposed to scare me? Is it supposed to put fear in my heart, the fact that you're from Harlem? Because it doesn't. Because the Hitman, when I grew up, when I dragged myself down and out of the dungeon in my father's house, nothing scared me, nothing. And no man has ever put fear in the Hitman's heart, because the fear is going to be in your heart, because you've pushed someone too far this time. You've pushed the Hitman over the brink. And he's coming after you. And this time, I'm not going to be busting up any trophies. No, I'm going to go for bigger game than that. I'm going to bust you up, Bad News Brown. I'm going to bust you in half.
Bret the Hitman Hart being double-crossed by Bad News Brown. He is very vehement in his thoughts on Mr. Brown. And, of course, what happened to that trophy in WrestleMania 4 is beyond description. Stay tuned. We're right back after this.
So Bad News still waiting for those epic beer-bellied sharecropper and spineless cockroach promos, but Bret Hitman Hart knocking one out of the park already, continuing to refer to Bad News as a double cross. Bad News, you're nothing but a double cross. I'm excellence execution, you lousy stinking hyena. Bret's promos will get better, guys, I promise. It'll only take another 8 or 9 years. But seriously, can't wait to see those two former Stampeders get in the ring here in the WWF Squared Circle. And right now we continue on one more soundbite here this week on The Grenade as we go back in time to an exclusive matchup here, taped back at the March 7th Saturday night's main event taping. Remember, we saw in the last edition the Killer Bees do the job for the Islanders there on SNME on NBC. But I also mentioned that was actually the first fall of a 2 out of 3 fall match. They sold it at Saturday night's main event as a 1 fall match. The Bees doing the job and the show comes to a conclusion. That wasn't true. It was actually a 2 out of 3 fall match. And this week, we get brand new commentary over the entire matchup. All 3 falls shown here as the Islanders going to score 2 falls to 1 over the Killer Bees and take the win. As we come out of that, we go back to the studio and we hear from the Brain and the Gorilla.
Well, Brain, the difference proved to be you.
Me? I didn't get involved.
You didn't get involved. You were there, weren't you? That's enough in my book.
If they can't understand that, if they can't prepare themselves for a match with me in the corner, it's not my fault.
I suppose
inadequate.
now that you'll be hounding World Wrestling Federation President Jack Tunney to have Axe and Smash put their John Henry on the contract.
That's right. And if Mr. Fuji's any kind of a manager, my team was the world's tag team champions. If they were and Mr. Fuji wanted a match, Fuji'd have one. I expect the same courtesy out of you. Simple. It's a matter of business.
Mr. Fuji, if you believe that, you're a bigger fool than I think you are.
How big a fool do you think he is?
Just about as big as you are. Unfortunately, though, for you, he's the one that's got the gold.
That's right. But like I say...
And you'd love to have it.
I'd love to have it.
Islanders looking to get a matchup with Demolition, the reigning World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. Plenty more action still to come. We'll be back in a moment.
So there we heard the Islanders over the Killer Bees, puts them in line, you have to believe, for a tag team title shot. Bobby Heenan calling out Mr. Fuji and Demolition. I wrote, wow, what a match that would have been. Heel Islanders versus heel Demolition. Could have been very interesting. Bobby taunting Fuji, says if you were any kind of a manager, you would accept the challenge and issue a title shot against the Islanders. What could have been? As we go on Primetime Wrestling, a couple more exclusive matches here this week, also taped on March the 7th, Nashville, Tennessee. It was the Junkyard Dog battling the Mighty Hercules to a double disqualification. Match goes about 4 minutes and 40 seconds when both men take to fighting with their chains. Not as fun as it sounds, but pretty cool visual there. Hercules with his chain. The dog goes out and grabs his dog collar chain, forcing the referee to call for the bell. Double disqualification there. Also, taped back March 9th in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It was the Outlaw Ron Bass over Reno Riggins with his version of the Pedigree. That match goes 3 minutes and 36 seconds. So another edition of Primetime Wrestling in the books and another edition of The Grenade in the books as well. And guys, I separated everything up because remember, 5 weeks of TV here in the month of April. And thus, we did 2 weeks last week. We do a single week this week, kind of a lighter load for me. It really helps me get back into the swing of things. And then next week, we return with 2 more weeks of April TV here on The Grenade Show. The Andre Duggan feud in full swing, boy, I'll say. Also, JYD and Outlaw Ron Bass, they have their issues now. Strikeforce chasing Demolition. Bad News Brown and Bret Hart, they have words exchanging here on TV, and pretty soon, they'll be in action as well. Plus, we know Bam Bam Bigelow still has issues with the one-man gang. Jimmy Hart looking over his shoulder in fear of Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who is not done with the Intercontinental Champion Honky Tonk Man. Randy Savage going to have to look out for that master plan of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And then right around the corner, next week's episode, more feuds are a-coming, guys. Yeah, we heard a little bit about that Dino Bravo Ken Patera issue that's a brewing. But also, get ready for Ravishing Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts. Going to be a fun time when we get there next week on The Grenade, guys. I promise you that. But for right now, time to wrap it up. I want to appreciate everyone, all the loyal listeners out there, all the patrons. This was a great way to get things back going once more, a great way to ease my way back in, so to speak, coming out of vacation and recording so many new episodes of Regional Wrestling, The Grenade Show, new edition of the Pro Wrestling Academy around the corner. We've got Bob Roop lined up to begin talking about his run in Mid-South Wrestling. Lots of great things coming to the WrestleCopia Podcast Network in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. And yes, in between, no downtime for me. Going to be cleaning up the house, cleaning out the garage, and cleaning up the yard to look nice and for the kids to enjoy this summer. But for now, we're going to wrap everything up 2 more weeks. Again, I promise you, of April WWF TV next week here on The Grenade. And then after that, it's another edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. You are not going to want to miss that one. So much coming. We've got WrestleFest 88 and SummerSlam this summer. We have just begun Randy Savage's reign as champion. So much to look forward to. Encourage everybody to stop over to WrestleCopia.com. Listen to all the great podcasts here as part of the WrestleCopia brand. You can also listen to all of the great shows over on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Be sure to follow me on X at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. Subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. Enjoy all of the free videos there. And then, last but certainly not least, guys, stop on over talking about that $5 all access tier over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Just a boatload of gifts for just $5. New stuff dropping each and every week. You don't want to miss out. Give it a try. I know you guys won't be disappointed. But it's time to wrap things up for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. And we will be back very soon with a whole lot more of the 1988 and the WWF Project. But for now, this is Ray Russell saying from pillar to post and coast to coast. You pull the pin, and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there!
Listen here, Bad News Brown. The whole world in WrestleMania 4 got to see just how bad you really are. And they got to see exactly what you are. You're nothing but a double cross.